keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, share, or follow. Or you can check out clovercrestmedia.com if you're interested in getting involved in podcasts, many more, and trying to get involved in this field. We're doing 2 shows back-to-back days, and then possibly Friday too. Boy, 3 shows on a week. That's what the sports world has given us to us. And that's why we are back, and that's why we have Lee Joseph Aguirre joining us today after the breaking news. Ted, first of all, you forgot to gel your hair, bro.
Like equity research team.
And you got the TV. Ted,
Listen,
you know what you do, bro?
Listen, I'm trying to find out where the show is on Facebook so I can share it and post it because all it says is Joe is live.
It should be up. It's not live?
Well, right now we have no one. Right now we got no one watching. They don't even have me watching.
Ted, you're almost as clueless as Rob Manfred. And we're going to talk about Rob Manfred because, well, he is, as yet again, comes up clutch for being maybe the title of worst commissioner in all of professional sports. So we'll get into that. But let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. We are March 2nd. 3 months ago, back in December, we had, or is it? Yeah, it's 3 months. Yeah, geez. I'm losing track of days, man. I'm telling you. It's just been mind-blowing how fast days are going by. Well, those 90 or close to 90 days, the MLB world, MLB fans, we still do not have any baseball after March 2nd's proposal rejected yesterday. So, guys, let's get into it. I'll start with Joe. Joe, honestly, straight up, what is your reaction to the MLB Lockout 2022?
It's unnecessary is my reaction to it. This is, just so I've heard people say, it's a strike, and it's definitely not a strike. This is not something the players wanted. This isn't the way the players wanted to go about this. The players are willing to go to camp and negotiate this thing, and the owners don't want to do that. And from what I've read, I mean, look, the owners are comfortable, Teddy, losing a certain amount of games here. It's still going to be as profitable for them either way. And so the more – again, they're willing to make it look like they'll sit out the entire season. They certainly don't want to do that, but what they're hoping to do is to break the players, and they've done it every time in the past. And after 2 years ago, these guys decided that next chance they had, they were not going to break. And here we are. They're, again, look, they're conceding where they can, but these guys have to make a stand. And, for anybody who is under the impression this is the millionaires versus the billionaires, dude, there's a lot of Major League Baseball players that are not millionaires. There's plenty of guys making $577. I know that's an enormous amount of money to make, but when you're living 9 months of the year on the road, you got to be compensated for that. There's no reason that a guy like Juan Soto should be making $800,000 last year. Now, I realize he got the new contract and whatever, but a lot of guys don't. I don't know if you guys remember 3 years ago, there was a very specific player I was concerned about and where his place in baseball was, that being Neil Walker. You guys remember this when the Yankees signed him a few years ago to a $3 million contract? That's a guy who should be making $10, $12 million a year, had to settle for a $3 million contract, right? Because trying to get away from 32-year-old middling veterans, guys like Neil Walker, professional hitters, guys who would not put up huge numbers, but the kind of guy you want on your team. And instead of paying those guys what's fair, those guys slowly got basically pushed out of baseball in favor of young guys making the major league minimum of $570,000 a year. And so in essence, what you're doing is you're, and this is why the union's upset and has every right to be, you're taking jobs away from bona fide baseball players, and you're putting an inferior product on the field to save a couple $1 million. Newsflash. Rob Manfred said earlier in the week, or last week rather, that Major League Baseball teams, doesn't know why anybody gets into the business, they're not profitable. Well, newsflash, the Atlanta Braves Profit from last season, $111 million profit.
Joe,
It's a very profitable business.
Joe, I'm glad you said this because I was telling Trev this the other day because I listened to Michael K's show and he always gives the New York stuff. Trev, you can keep it like this. I don't need it with all of us because this is our discussion, not my discussion.
I was giving.
I don't want it.
Oh, I like that. Give him the floor. I love it.
You got the floor.
No, I don't want the floor in that sense.
I enjoyed that, Trev. You could do that to me all day.
See, so
I got you. I'll help you guys out.
Jeff Passan was saying about 4 years ago, MLB teams, ownership teams, the value of Major League Baseball teams went from 15 billion to 55 billion last year. So overall value of the Major League Baseball teams, meaning teams are making a serious amount of money. Joe, you hit on a point. Major League Baseball teams are getting rid of veteran journeymen that have high-priced contracts for favor for youth guys for minimum contracts. So guys, like you said, like Neil Walker, some of those guys who are veterans that in the old days you would definitely like a Chili Davis. Remember the guys like Tim Raines, guys that you would pull up, they would be bench players, key contributors to your teams, are no longer valuable teams. They're taking lower profitable teams. Here's the other thing what's wrong with baseball. And this is not just players versus owners. This is owners versus owners. You got disparity in Major League Baseball. And that's the biggest problem when you don't have a salary cap. Now, I don't care if they don't have a salary cap. It's no big thing. But you got teams like the Mets, you got teams like the Yankees, you got teams like the Dodgers, the Red Sox. They spend money. They have money. Then you got teams like the Marlins. And I think this is part of the reason why Derek Jeter left is the Marlins, who still make money, rather not spend the money and pocket the money. That's the biggest thing. They don't spend the money on their teams. Joe, they'd rather just pocket the money instead of putting the product into the team. Jeter thought he was going to have an extra $15 million to use towards it, and they're like, no, we're not going to use it. They actually have, if you know anything about baseball, you would know that their farm system, especially their pitching staff, is loaded. They got some talent that if they can keep the pieces and they continue to grow, that pitching staff could be really formidable in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, we're talking studs in the pitching staff. But this is a huge problem. This is something that you knew was coming, okay? We shouldn't be fooled by it. This is because the Major League Baseball Players Association got taken behind the woodshed and smacked around in their last deal in 2016. That was the biggest thing. They got crumbled in the last one. Part of that was the players decided to sign the contract. I mean, they chose to sign the contract. So it is what it is. They're trying to make up for lost value. You're never going to make up for lost value. It is what it is. But the problem is the money disparity. Major League Baseball, for them to say they don't make money is BS. It's absolutely BS. They make more than enough money. All right. I was reading just now on Yahoo, the way fans are trying to get back at Major League Baseball is they're canceling their MLB TV subscriptions. And a lot of the reasons is blackout disparity. Sorry, I don't want you. I don't want your subscriptions. I don't want nothing to do with MLB. And until you get rid of the blackout stuff, which definitely infuriates a lot of people and teams, that hurts the fans. I mean, at the end of the day, the fans are the ones that hurt the most because we enjoy the game. This is a, I don't want to say a toy, but this is something where hobby, toy, enjoyment, something that we really take pride in. Major League Baseball, we've talked about this, Trev, since we went to CSB school like 4 or 5 years ago, was people don't enjoy baseball anymore. Baseball's too long. Baseball's too boring. They don't do a good job of making their stars. You know what I mean? They don't. You talk about Mike Trout, right? There's like the 32nd ranked quarterback. The 32nd ranked quarterback in the football team has more followers on Instagram than Mike Trout does. That's the problem. They don't.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you both this. When you think of the NBA and you think of LeBron James, think of Steph. Just two of them. Just two of the names that come to mind. There's a bunch of other names, obviously. The NFL, when you think of the NFL, you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think of Aaron Rodgers, just a handful of, and there's, the story. NHL even has marketable players. Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin over the time. They've had marketable players. The baseball, now currently, back in the day, the 90s, the 2000s, even the early 2010s, you always had somebody you could market with. You could market with Sammy Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds back in the day. Early 2000s, you had Jeter. You had A-Rod, you had Nomar, the 3 shortstops, the 3 AL shortstops that everybody.
Ken Griffey Jr., bro.
I know, but I'm just saying names. You had always marketable players now in the sense of today's world, in the baseball world specifically, when you think of baseball, I mean, you think of like Mike Trout, you think of Aaron Judge, but who's their guy? Who's the marketable guy that they can run with? Is it Ohtani though?
The problem with Ohtani is,
I think he's just the heat.
Hold on, it's
just
come
the heat
off
of the moment.
as an ignorant statement, but it's because he's not American born. It's not going to have the same.
No, I think
feel.
that's just the heat of the moment a heat of the moment statement.
No, Ohtani, listen, Ohtani is their best value player. He is their best player that they could sell. Oh, trust me, because he pitches
because of the international.
He's their best seller. Second to Aaron, and then Aaron Judge, I would say. Aaron Judge over Trout because he plays for the New York Yankees, and he's a big guy. You know what I mean? He's 6'8", he's 250 pounds, hits moonshots. He's got a nice. He's a good-looking dude. You can sell him. All right. You can't sell Mike Trout. He's a quiet guy, not really a commercial guy. Kind of keeps to himself. Never in the playoffs. But Ohtani, you can really sell. You can sell that, but the problem is he's not an American-based born player, and that doesn't sell in America. I know that sounds ignorant, but it's the truth. You know, if Ohtani was like from Los Angeles, California, he'd have a little more selling point. But because he's from Japan,
I think that's
some Americans, it doesn't have the same selling point.
Joe, but I think that's a little bit of maybe. I understand where
you're coming.
Hold on, listen. Yeah, but you got to think about. There's been some players Albert Pujols. I mean, he's not an American-born player. He's from the Dominican Republic. Ichiro Suzuki, just a couple names that when Ichiro came over. I mean,
Ichiro easily could have been the face of Major League.
That's
Baseball.
What I'm saying. But he was one of the most marketable players in that world too, and he wasn't American-based.
Dude, listen, there's a reason why Derek Jeter is maybe slightly over-regarded for the player that he was. Okay, he's the essence of the All-American boy, born out in Michigan, right, with New York ties, shortstop for the Yankee, biracial, handsome, won championships. That's marketable. That's America. It looks like America. Everything about him is America.
And you're in New York.
And so, yeah, listen, I look, there's always going to be that underlying element. You guys know how I feel. You know, one of the things we've talked about on the show before is we only generally refer to Black and Hispanic players as lazy. You don't ever really put that label on white players, and there's certainly lazy white players in baseball as well. 100%. So, look, there's always going to be that racial element, and I know everybody hates hearing about that stuff, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've talked about this before. There's a reason why, you know, the Minnesota Twins, right, locked in on Justin Morneau, more than happy to let David Ortiz go, you know, not realizing what they had. You look all around baseball, teams like the Colorado Rockies, man, they locked up Todd Helton for 1 million years. They didn't lock Ellis Burks up. You know what I mean? There's other guys that they could have kept. Small market teams in America, Mike Sweeney with Kansas City,
yep.
Evan Longoria, you know, pick a third baseman or a first baseman in any small market team in America. That's everyone's favorite player. It's a very marketable thing. And most of those players are white. You know, when Adrian Gonzalez got traded from the Padres, that was one of the most appalling things and stupidest moves I'd ever seen. San Diego's got a huge Hispanic population. Gonzalez was from San Diego. Like, you couldn't have found
good-looking players in baseball.
Yes, you could not have found him, and they traded him.
Yep.
That would have.
Are we talking the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Dodgers one? Because he got traded.
San Diego initially traded him to the Red Sox or the Dodgers, and then
Red Sox traded him to the Dodgers.
Dude, again, the idea that you would trade that guy, shocking.
Well, here's the thing.
Dustin Pedroia stayed in Boston for. I mean, he's I think just literally retired now.
Like 2.
You know what I mean? Nomar Garciaparra sat out one game against the Yankees, and they shipped him to Chicago.
Joe, you know what's funny though? People would say, well, they don't have a salary cap, so it's unfair for the smaller teams to compete with the bigger teams. What I would tell them is go look at the last 20 years. There have been the same amount of champions in Major League Baseball as there has been in the NFL. Jeff Passan said the other day, I think he said there's been 19 champions and 13 different teams in both the NFL and Major League Baseball. So what's that say? It doesn't matter if you have a salary cap or not. You're still getting different teams. The Yankees haven't won one in 10 years. All right. And we talk about the Red Sox. How many of the Red Sox won in the last 10 years? You know what I mean? As good as the Dodgers have been. How many of the Dodgers have won? The Astros, how many they have? You know what I mean? The Cubs. I mean, all these big teams.
The Mets. The Mets, they haven't even won a World Series. I mean, that's another thing.
Barely making the playoffs.
So here's what the problem is. And this is what's got to be fixed first. The ownership has to be fixed between ownership. Because you got a guy like Steve Cohen worth $13 billion. If you realize before the December 2nd lockout, he made a couple deals. He paid some people.
Yeah.
He set the market way before anyone else. All right. And now you got guys like in Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay just paid their guy, their shortstop, right?
Oh, Franco.
That's a way under deal. Now, here's the thing. He could have bet on himself, said no, went through the arbitration years, and could have got maybe if he played, as long as he didn't risk it, would have made up a lot more money in the long run. But he took the guaranteed money now, a guy who doesn't come for it. Now, think about what the Braves paid Ronald Acuna 10 years, $100 million. Dude, if he's on the market, he makes $350 million. Easy. Now, is he worth $350? No, but what I'm saying is the disparity, like these teams, they're not in the same ballpark, bro. They're not in the same ballpark. Pittsburgh's going, like Joe said, you got the Pittsburgh, you got Tampa Bay. They're just going, we got these young guys like an Aaron Judge, and we keep them. And then we don't like Andrew McCutchen, who was like, he was so great for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, well, hold on. But we can't put no one around him because we're not willing to spend money. And then so we got to ship him to the Red Sox or the Yankees because we need prospects because we can't afford him. And then what's crazy is now you think of the last couple of years, the Padres, all of a sudden they're giving out $300 million contracts to Machado, and you're like, wait, the Padres were never doing that. So what are they doing now? And then how do the Rays still compete even though their market is salary cap is like $50 million, the Yankees is like $250? That's the biggest problem. That's the ownership problem first because there's not a fair market. We're not playing in the same ball field. Yankees revenue versus the Pirates is just not the same. And then, of course, when that comes to players, it's like, listen, I'm playing for the Pirates. I'm Andrew McCutchen. I'm an MVP. I'm a Gold Glover. I'm a 4-time All-Star. I want to go get paid, goddammit. I want to make some money. Why the hell am I sitting in Pittsburgh making $8.3 million? I can go play for the Red Sox, Cubs, someone else who's going to pay me $25 million. Because your career, like Tony Clark says, is short-lived. How many guys play in an open day? How many guys' careers last 4 years? How many guys' careers last 10? You got to take with the money when you can get it. And who are we to say, hey, don't take the money? Listen, someone who offered you right now a job at Google and said, I'm going to pay you $10 million, and I want you to leave the job at Yale or something else. You don't say yes?
No, I don't think you
over it.
But Chad, hold on. The only thing is, it's in another state. Are you moving? Oh, you can't move. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't move, bro. You can't leave everybody. You can't leave everybody. Like you told me, you can't leave everybody.
$10 million, I'll come pay you for your people to come visit me.
There you go.
$10 million. We can do a lot with $10 freaking million. What are you, Chelsea Clinton? No. But here's the thing. No, go on, Joe. Finish your point.
I've got one quick thing to say here.
Okay.
David Glass, the CEO of Walmart and the owner of the Kansas City Royals, bought that team in the year 2000 for $96 million. I'm not even going to bring up the waterfall. I'm going to bring up the fact he bought it for $96 million. He sold it 2 years ago for $1 billion.
Damn.
This is a very profitable business.
Yeah.
If the Kansas City friggin' Royals are worth $1 billion, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, that means that probably every team in baseball's got a value in the vicinity of $1 billion. Plenty of money there, guys. Plenty.
Well, let's continue on with the Rob Manfred sweepstakes because, well, we always talk about lockouts. There's always been lockouts. There's been an NBA lockout, which canceled 161 days, got into December in 2011, 2012. NHL took a big hit with their lockout in 2004, 2005, closing the season. I know that the MLB has had lockouts in 94. They had their longest one up until this point. But here's the thing.
They never miss regular season games.
Never miss regular season games. And it's very simple. The title of worst commissioner, you never want to hear the word worst and a person associated with. You never want that title because plain and simply, it sucks to hear if you're a person of that. But that's where it's come to for the MLB commissioner, Rob Manfred. And this is even before this whole lockout. This kind of, Ted, you sent me an email, an article last night of the legacy of Rob Manfred. Well, has this cemented it? Because you got to think of it. Even before this lockout, guys, the handling of the Astros, Red Sox whole cheating scandal, how that really backfired on his ass and really didn't take a firm stance and really punish this team like they should have, both the Red Sox and the Astros. And they didn't. The handling of it was awful. And now with this situation going on, it's a very simple question. I'll start with you, Ted. Has Rob Manfred cemented his legacy as the worst commissioner in all of sports? Now, I'll go with the four major ones: Roger Goodell, Adam Silver, and Gary Bettman. Well, and now we're on Manfred.
Well, here's the thing. So Gary Bettman's been reigning supreme for a while now.
Oh, he's had this title.
Worst commissioner. He's always getting booed. Then there's the Goodell clown show. Remember about 4 years ago, they had the clown shirts. Trev, you're talking about Manfred. Goodell's handled things a lot worse than he has. From the Ray Rice things to the Tom Brady thing. I mean, there's a lot more issues that go on in football than baseball. Let's get that fact straight first. Roger Goodell. But here's the thing. Rob Manfred hasn't lost a union case since 2008. He was the guy for the owners when they had to do the CBAs. He's a lawyer. He hasn't lost 2008, 2006. He don't lose. He's like Johnny Cochran, bro. He don't lose. He does not lose. That was part of the reason. Here's the other thing. These commissioners, they work for the owners, bro. They work for the owners. They don't work for the players. They work for the owners. That what Joe and me talked about, and Trevor.
Yeah, but the handling.
$30 million because the owners put him in there because
I get that, but the handling.
Hold on.
It's how you handle these situations.
They want to know that the commissioner is going to back the owners, not the players.
Yeah, but you have to handle these situations knowing that this was.
Listen, what makes it more bad?
Hold on. This was incoming.
You asked me a question.
I know, but I'm just talking. I'm just having a debate. Shut your mouth. Anyways, this is a situation that you should have handled before, well ahead of time. I know that you knew this was going to happen. This was incoming. And for them to just continuously
here's the thing,
show their stubborn ways, and this isn't about – look.
Here's the thing, though. I said this before. If the owners don't want to make a deal, it doesn't matter what he said.
I know that. I get that.
So first things first, Pittsburgh Pirates don't want to raise the revenue. Like, here's the thing. You said, Ted, make sure you have the facts in front of you. So, Joe, this was some of the crap that I was just reading about, all right? So it said MLB proposed raising the luxury tax to $210 in 2020, 2024, $224 in 2025, $230 in 2026. All right. Now, the players wanted to start at $238 instead of $210 in 2020, $244, $250, $256, and $263. What's that mean? The players want the salary cap, which there is none, at a higher value, so teams would have to spend more, which means they would hire the threshold of the minimum salary, because there is a threshold where major league teams have to pay a certain amount of money on their players. Here's the other thing, which I did not realize, which I think is stupid. If the Yankees go over the luxury tax goes back into the teams that don't go over the luxury. They give the money back to the teams. Why? Don't help those teams out. BS. Help the team. They don't want to spend their money. Penalize them. That's a problem when you have teams, and this is something we haven't talked about, but we talked about with the Dolphins. When you got teams tanking, bro. Now, it worked for the Houston Astros all those years, tanking, so they could get a guy like Correa, could get a guy like Altuve. They can get some studs and then help them win a championship. There's an issue with baseball, and Manfred's stuck between a rock and a hard place. The problem that makes him look like a clown is when he's practicing his golf swing or laughing and smiling in a press conference, because there's nothing to smile about. There is nothing to smile about. You know, you'd like to have, like, you think Brian Cashman right now, Trev, I'm going to ask you, and Joe, you think Brian Cashman right now is smiling? Hell no, bro. The revenue the Yankees are losing, the people that work in the stadiums that don't get paid now, the sponsorship, sponsors start going away, that's when the owners get hit. They're screwed because if Rob Manfred goes, hey, we can go sign a deal, and the Pittsburgh Pirate owners, there's more bad teams and lower priced teams in Major League Baseball than there is teams that like the Red Sox, Cubs, Giants, Angels. Those teams, there's like a few of them, And then there's like 20 teams that rather tank and save their money. And there's owners that rather go, I'm going to still keep my lunch money from third grade in their pocket. And then there's other guys going, I'm spending because as a Yankee fan, we don't conserve. We go all in. That's why you hear people, Yankee fans, go get that guy and go get that guy, because that's the expectation. You ever heard a Pittsburgh Pirate fan or someone else go, I want that guy? And they're like, hopefully our first round draft pick pans out. We don't think about a first round draft pick. We go spend. That's the difference in the Major League Baseball, because there's no salary cap. And Robert Manfred, he's in a tough position. He does look like a clown. I don't think he's the worst commissioner. It's just part of business. And here's the thing: when the deals and lockouts like this crap happens, the commissioner always looks like the clown, bro. Because all the blame always falls on him. Roger Goodell, I still think, is a clown because he's handled football atrociously, but it doesn't matter. I could be the commissioner of the NFL, because at the end of the day, NFL sells itself. People, if you had NFL all day long, we talked about the Super Bowl, the ratings, the Bengals and Rams Super Bowl was through the roof.
Joe, what do you think?
Rob Manfred is not a baseball fan.
He called the World Series a thing of metal.
A piece of metal.
Right.
Thank you, Trev.
This guy apparently grew up a Yankee fan, doesn't act like one. I think he's a Yankee fan, like any person who doesn't follow baseball might be like, yeah, I like the Yankees. Or if you're a super casual football fan, you like the Patriots. Now you like somebody different because, no more Brady. But this guy doesn't love baseball. They brought him in 1987. So how far back he dates back to baseball. He showed up during collective bargaining. As Teddy said, he's a lawyer. He works for the owners. If they wanted a deal to get done, Rob Manfred's a brilliant man. He could have certainly come up with a deal that's fair and equitable to all sides. He hadn't done that because, as Teddy pointed out, the owners don't want that. Again, these guys feel like they can get the players to break. There's going to come a point where players want to play. Got guys like Clint Frazier online saying they're going to go out work at McDonald's. Joey Gallo posted his resume on LinkedIn, So these guys are getting restless. And here's the other thing. Look, the longer that they delay all this and these guys can't get in the game shape, the worse this is going to be on the players when the season starts. Because even with some, even if you run the full spring training, you're going to have guys that are just physically not going to be ready. You're going to have guys that are going to get off to bad starts. You're going to see a lot more injuries.
Joe, this happened a couple years ago when they had the short thing. More guys got hurt. Now, here's the other thing. I don't want to cut you off, Trevor. I know you want to talk about this on your point. But things that they were talking about was MLB luxury tax threshold. Their disparity between that. The players want the luxury tax at a higher level. Major league teams want it at a lower level. Another thing, Joe, we have talked about the proposal for minimum salary. Right now, it's at $675. Major League Baseball wants to move it up $10,000 per year, moving up to $700,000. Major League Baseball Association, they would like it to start at $725, then $745, $765, and continuously based higher. The problem is they got screwed so bad in 2016. They're trying to make up. They're going to have to find a middle ground. The playoff thing, do not need 14 teams in the playoffs. 12 is good. 10 is too much. But for a league that has 30 teams, we don't need half the teams in Major League Baseball making the playoffs. It's stupid. More is not sometimes better. We saw it even with football. Even with the extra wild card team this year, they were all blowouts. All the first-round games were awful. And then when it got down to the nitty-gritty, Trev, we said it. We got the best teams the last 3 weeks of the season with the divisional, the championship, and then the Super Bowl were all really good games. That's what fans want to see. We don't want to see a team who's 82-82 or 81-81 make the playoffs against a 96 team. Oh, it's 96-win team. I don't want to see it. It's not good for baseball. You want to see the best versus the best.
Here's a big point, and I'm going to go a completely different side of this too, in the sense of why he is. I mean, you said words like catching up. You said football with Goodell and money and investments. That's the key. People are invested in the NFL. The NFL can take a hit, and all the stuff that's been going on in the NFL, the Ray Rice, the national anthem, Colin Kaepernick, all of that. Look at the NFL currently right now. Look at what just happened in the Super Bowl. 2/3 of this country just watched a Super Bowl that had a matchup of the LA Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. The NFL is going to be fine. Doesn't matter what happens. The NBA, even when they had their lockout, people are invested in the NBA. People love the NBA. It's this. It has to be. I know baseball is still there, but baseball. Well, I'll talk in a second about this. What I'm getting with the NBA is still going to have an investment. You're still going to have people that are going to go to games. People love watching the NBA now. It's huge. ESPN, they highlight it, they promote it. People are just invested. NHL was huge in 2004, 2005. It was a peak. I remember I used to play the NHL games, 2K back in the day. I used to love playing with Gary Thorne as the announcer of the video game. It was just incredible. I loved playing. ESPN they always have with Barry Melrose, Gary Thorne. That was peak NHL. Then they had their lockout, and it's never been the same since. And also the reason why I say why he is because, Ted, you said the word catching up. Well, that's what baseball's been doing for God knows how long. Since I've been alive, it feels like it's been catching up to the Joneses with the NFL and the NBA. And I know baseball has always had probably the second. It was at a time that it was the most popular sport in this country. Well, that's drastically changed. The NFL has taken that title, and people are just not invested in baseball. And in a time where people are losing interest year in and year out with baseball, people don't care about baseball. With something like this can be drastic. Just go ask the NHL. The NHL took a massive dip with popularity and investment from people and fans. Look at what it is now. Yeah, it's starting to try to come back to life with ESPN. They're trying to get games on. They're trying to promote it again. But if baseball has this and it continues to get worse or hopefully better, this is a time where baseball can't afford this because they're losing popularity to where the NBA and NHL and even the NHL and the NFL, obviously, they're all growing popularity and they're getting a great investment from the fans. Baseball doesn't get it. All we ever talk about, guys, is, oh, well, when we think of baseball, we talk Yankees, obviously, but we always are like, who's the face of baseball? When we talk, who can we market? Who can we invest to the fans and push out?
You know what else we talk about?
Hold on, where it's like, hold on.
They can't get instant replay right. Strikeouts, umpires.
I know, but hold on. But like I'm saying, you can't push to the fans where like the NBA, you can push LeBron, you can push Steph, KD, Giannis, because people are either going to love them or you're going to hate them. The NFL's the same thing. You could push Roger, you could push Brady, you could push Mahomes because you're either going to love them or you're going to hate those guys. The MLB, there's no guy that they haven't pushed yet. We were hoping it could be Mike Trout, but they haven't. We were hoping it could be Aaron Judge. Yeah, we say Aaron Judge because
here's the thing: you can't push one player in Major League Baseball because
I know that
he gets three at bats and maybe gets three fly balls.
I understand that, but that's the problem.
The team and the
hold on.
No, I'm telling you, that's the thing.
I know. I'm just trying to make one point. They're not even pushing one player. They're not even pushing.
Who do you push, Trev?
You have to push somebody. You have to push. You have marketable players. You just said it.
Yeah, but you got to push the team, though.
But I know, but you just said Shohei Ohtani. You have marketable players. So what about these garbage ass John Moran? I know the Memphis Grizzlies have been great this year. Don't get me wrong. But they've been slowly building to that.
Yeah, now he controls John Moran. He dribbles the ball. He controls the ball. I know, 65%. Here's my thing. If you're the San Francisco Giants, right, you're on Sunday Night Baseball.
Like, right? You can't push. Look, it's hard to push a pitcher in baseball, Joe, because he only pitches every 5 days or on 4 days. He only is pitching once or twice a week. A hitter, when you're playing baseball 6 or 7 days a week, sometimes when you have 5 games, you could push hitters. You can push the Mike Trouts. You can push the Aaron Judge, the Otanis, because you're overseeing
Otanis.
Yes, you can push those guys. You can never push a pitcher in baseball because of the fact that you're only getting them once every 4 or 5 days.
That's why I said Ohtani could be the guy because he hits and pitches, so you could see him on multifaceted.
Then I think they have to start doing something because you have to have that marketable star. You have Aaron Judge, yeah, he's in the commercials. You have Mike Trout in the Subway commercials. Ohtani, you have to start pushing those guys because those are your guys that are going to lead you into the future for the next coming generation, like the NFL did. The NFL pushed these quarterbacks, and after all these old-time quarterbacks from the 90s, early 2000s finally called it quits, and finally with being Brady, now guess what? The NFL don't have to worry about anything because guess what? They're going into the future with a whole new, fresher look with all these young quarterbacks that are going to take the league by storm, and the popularity is going to continue to grow. Same with the NBA. You're going to lose LeBron? Don't worry about it. We got Giannis. We have young John Morant. We have Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker. We have Donovan Mitchell. Just a plethora of young talent that we could push to the future. Baseball, you just got to get there first.
Listen, if you think about baseball and the tradition of baseball, and the fact that you've had very little movement of baseball teams, that you've had the Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox. These are teams that have been in place, for the Pirates, 110 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very much about the team when it comes to baseball, because you also know, and we talked about this before, but the history of baseball, the records of baseball, those are numbers that are hallowed. How many yards did Emmitt Smith finish with all-time leading rusher? You have no idea.
18,265, I think it is.
Yeah, only Teddy knows that exact number.
Or I think it's 260. I think it's 266.
It might be. It doesn't matter. Nobody gives a crap.
No,
Nobody cares.
I give a crap because I need to know if I'm right or not now. I need to know if I'm right before.
Joe, I think I know where you're going with this, because here's the problem.
Let him finish.
Hold on, when we're done with the show, because I think it'll build on this point. Things that we've complained about baseball, right? We have instant replay, but we don't use it in the right way. Why do we have instant replay if we're not going to use it and we're not going to change calls? If the ball is a foul ball, we still call it a home run. Why do we have instant replay? I mean, we have seen things in instant replay. Major League Baseball is still in the damn 60s. They're living in their history instead of thinking about the future. Hold on. Hockey, right? They change rules about goalies, size of the blue period, faster pace, basketball, less fouls. We want more scoring. We want more points. Hockey, we want more scoring.
The NFL has helped the quarterback.
We're going to make it more offensive, less. Now, what has Major League Baseball done? Okay, so we had the steroid era, which was really good. It brought baseball up. We had a lot of runs. Now we're gonna dead the ball. Then we're gonna make the ball good. Then we're gonna change the rules. Then we're gonna lower the amount. We're gonna have instant replay, but it's not gonna fix the calls that like the guy's safe on first, but don't worry, he's still out. And I could see it clearly on my television in 1080p. This is not static TV from 1926, all right? But we still look like it because they're in black and white. They're looking at it for 10 minutes. Even though clear as today, they don't fix the things that need to be fixed. You want to make baseball interesting? Find ways to make it interesting. We're talking about players. Just make the game interesting. Stop with all this BS crap because we are younger generation. We're like this. We're on the phones. We want to know things now.
That's just you in general.
We want things done right. That's the problem.
That's just you in general.
Right. And if you're not going to do it right, you're wasting all our goddamn time. And the only people that are going to watch it is guys like Joe who are older or dads, and then people who actually are true baseball fans. Other than that, the black communities, the urban communities, because they had one of the older guys on, Tim Kirchin. People got things going on in their life. People make money. I don't need to sit home and waste 3.5 hours to watch stupid baseball. I'll just go do something else in my time.
In 1958, Jackie Robinson, who had broken the color barrier 10 years earlier,
which is April 15th, which if they wait another week, they're going to miss Jackie Robinson Day.
Yep, and
they're going to.
And they will. Because they don't care. They really don't. But Jackie Robinson said that he didn't like watching baseball because it was boring. He preferred basketball and football. And that was a sentiment that a lot of people shared, even in the 50s. So all this talk of tradition and keeping the sport boring and not being innovative, people have been complaining about the slow pace of baseball literally forever. Like, you got to the 50s, people got TVs, Ted. They got cars. They're like, we got things to do. Let's move it.
And that's the thing.
Sport. Yeah. And here's the other thing. Initially, when you asked the question about him cementing his legacy, you meant currently of the commissioners currently in sports, because I would tell you that, Bud Selig could give this guy a run for his money as well, because that was another terrible commissioner who, literally navigated them into the worst strike in history. That one being 94, 95. Incidentally, that was the last strike that we've had. That's the last work stoppage in baseball.
Yep.
And yet it feels like it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Did you know from 1972 to 1982, 10 years, 5 strikes?
Yep.
Okay.
82, 85.
the labor unrest in baseball, 72, 73, 75, 80, 81. I was a kid. I remember the 81 season. They split it up in the first half, second half, some nonsense. Where's the tradition there, guys? Baseball hides behind tradition when it wants to. And then at other times, just, throws it by the wayside. And again, as you guys mentioned earlier, a commissioner who thinks the World Series trophy is just a piece of metal.
Yeah,
and that's very much the way they're negotiating. They don't care about the fans. They thought the players would break. And I would ask anybody that's watching or hears or sees this, don't turn on the players, because the only way that they're going to ensure that this crap doesn't happen more times in the future is if they get something in place that's fair for everybody and that they can have a harmonious movement forward where everybody feels like they're winning. Because when the other side keeps getting bashed over the head, that's not going to be harmonious, and it's only going to make the next CBA more difficult and increase the chance of another work stoppage, be it a lockout or a strike. So it's on the owners here. They got to start manning up. They're being dishonest. They're making tons of money, and they don't want to share it with the players or anyone else.
100% agree. And Ted, you said it right. That's the thing. People are making changes. The NFL's been making changes to the game. The NBA's been making changes to the game. The NHL is trying to make changes to the game. Yes, all for the better. The MLB is just behind the 8 ball. Everything they're doing is ass backwards. Oh, and another thing. Don't forget about the so-called unwritten rules in baseball that they always like to complain about, which doesn't even make sense. By the way, I wanted to say Emmitt Smith finished with 18,365 yards. So, Ted, we're not too far off.
Again, but 755. You know what I mean? 56. Yeah,
756. Yeah.
There's just a big difference between the traditions of these sports, and there's a reason for that. Football doesn't push that crap. Football doesn't make a big deal about the career numbers, and not for nothing, they've been doing this as long as baseball has.
Well,
there's a reason they've become more successful. And it's the idea that they don't push the numbers as hard. They don't.
They don't need to, because the product sells itself.
The product sells itself.
As good as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we know his lead time scorer, and no one knows how many points he has. And the Emmitt Smith, I want to tell you something. The Emmitt Smith thing was a straight-up guess. I knew it was 18,000. I just didn't know how many yards.
That was pretty solid guess, though, brother. That was really – I thought you had it, honestly.
Wait, he said 255. I said 260.
No, I said 265. You said 266.
Then I said 265.
I was 100 yards off, bro. Not bad for a guess.
I was 90.
Didn't even put that same number in there.
Last thought on this. Buddy. Again, the reason and the hostility and keeping Barry Bonds out is he ruined 755. Yeah, and I always forget whether that's 762 or 763 or 761, and I don't care. I don't care what that number is. And it's high time that baseball sort of gets over itself.
Just
61 was a movie.
Just like the Hall of Fame. One guy gets in. We have all these perfect guys that are in thing. Whatever. We don't need to get into a whole nother topic we did before. Whatever. But all these things that Barry Bonds, put them in the damn. They're Hall of Famers because they have bats and balls and they're in uniform. They should have a plaque in there. And on the step that you step next to the thing should say, played in the era when steroids were used. Was never tested positive, but believed to do so. Here's his record book.
Here's my final point about that whole thing. You can't look in the record books without seeing Barry Bonds' name, Roger Clemens' name, Kurt Schilling's name.
Pete Rose.
They hate that.
Just for the guys that, Sammy Sosa, McGuire, Rafael Palmeiro, all guys that have had some sort of impact in history, all guys that will not be in the Hall of Fame because the MLB wants to be in their stubborn ways. Worst thing you could be, and learn from it from a guy that's very, very stubborn. Don't be stubborn. It's not ideal. It doesn't work out to anybody's benefit. So we'll see what happens with baseball. We are 3 months in now. The lockout has been rejected, or the proposal was rejected yesterday. The lockout continues in the MLB world. So baseball fans, So you just got to sit and wait and see what happens with this disaster.
Well, good thing for the USFL and March Madness.
Hey,
and
good thing for
else.
USFL. Good thing for the NFL Combine again, the NBA, the NHL. This is just more for your investment and for fans to take advantage of the mishaps and the incompetency that we like to call the MLB.
I've been watching The Sopranos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're back on it?
Yeah. I'll watch it. This will be my third time through. I'm about 4 episodes in to do another run through.
What season are you in?
I'm literally in one. I just started a few days ago.
I think it's raining today. I'm thinking about getting back into watching The Sopranos. I finished season 1. I gotta watch season 2.
So good.
I love it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
And the other,
it's a true masterpiece.
Buster only said that this is the way a 12-team playoff field would likely work. 2 teams in each league would get first-round byes. The other 8 teams would play a first-round best of 3.
I don't like that.
We'll see.
I don't like a best of 3 in baseball. I'm sorry. You could do that in basketball. You could do that in other sports. 3 games in baseball, bro. The Pirates can blow out the Dodgers, 35-0 in a 3-game set. That means nothing.
In 2 games, all you got to do is just win 2 games.
Right. Well, there you go. I've never been a fan of you can't do that in baseball. It's not going to tell you who the better team is.
Nope.
It's going to tell you who the better team was that couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the NBA, right? And I know there was a couple last year, was it, where was the Clippers kept going to 7 with everybody?
Oh, who was? I think
whoever it was. I know somebody was going 7 and knocking all those teams off. You have a chance in a 7-game series where maybe the better team doesn't win. In a 3-game series, in basketball especially, that would never happen.
Well,
it would never happen.
We'll see what happens with baseball. Right now, what we know is happening is that there's a disaster.
They're ruining the game.
And baseball.
Every year they find another way to do something worse than the year before.
We'll see.
Unbelievable.
We were hoping to come on here, start talking some New York Yankee baseball moves, what they should consider. But no, we're talking about, again, the negativity.
By the way, is anybody else getting the nerves of the Yankees need to do 100 things before the season starts and they're in a lockout?
Well, until that season actually starts, I'm not going to get worried because we don't know when this is going to. We don't know when it's going to finish up, Joe. We don't know when it's going to conclude. We don't.
Can I make a prediction today?
Go on.
Carlos Correa is the Yankees' starting shortstop for the 2022 season.
I would hate the Yankees. I would not.
I bet you he signs a 1-year, $28 million deal, and he plays
I would not be happy with the Yankees.
Hey, Joe, guess what?
I won't be happy, Joe.
Joe, you want to hear another wild thing? I know we got to end the show, and these are things we should have talked about.
We don't have to end anything.
If Major League Baseball misses 15 more games, Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, yes.
Pete Alonso, the kid Cronenworth, and one other player missed free agency by a year.
Yeah, would that shock anybody if this thing happens on day 16?
Well, guess what? Those guys, let's just close the inevitable. They will be missing a year of free agency because the baseball's not going to get anything done anytime soon. We'll see what happens, but we will be back on Friday to discuss NFL Combine. We're going to start talking NFL draft. We're going to start going through the NFL first round and talk about team needs and all. Talk about the New York Giants. The Giants already cut Kyle Rudolph, save $5 million in the cap. So we'll see. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones looks like he might not get his 5th-year option. And
Kyle Rudolph
could be. Yeah, Kyle Rudolph got cut today. The first of many moves that could be happening early on in the Joe Shane and Brian Dable era of the New York Giants. So we'll talk all about that. Huh?
Just sent you guys something in Messenger. You guys will see it.
Was it breaking news?
No, it's just stuff about draft and other news and others.
Oh, okay. I thought you why don't you just tell us? Why don't you just tell me?
Why don't you just tell us what you want?
Why don't you just tell us what you want to hear? All right.
James Bradbury is also willing to take a significant pay cut to stay with the Giants.
Well, he has to or he's getting traded or cut.
It was a Twitter thing of Dave Gettleman's 12 largest free agency moves. And it was.
I don't even want to hear the name Dave.
Just go look at your thing, and you'll just.
I don't even want to hear the name Dave Gettleman again.
They can't get rid of James Bradbury. They've got to bring that guy back. I'm telling you, but that would be such a step backwards.
Joe, he's got to take a pay cut.
He will.
Right. I hope so because he's
Friday.
He's getting Friday. Ted, shut up. Oh my God. Can we cut Ted? Joe Shane, cut Ted. Cut ties with Ted. He really
Oh
did
my
leave.
God.
He left.
That's
Bye.
hilarious. Yeah, he
Ladies
did.
and gentlemen, we are Keys of the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys of the City. That's the type of team we have right here. Ted just leaves. You know, that's why if I had $10 million, Ted, I'd cut your ass just like that. Anyways, we'll be back Friday to discuss NFL and much more on Keys of the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys of the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share, or check out clovercrestmedia.com for many more podcasts, or if you're trying to get involved in this line of work. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.